Why are you laughing?
Because we started Friday, you gotta be in a good mood, man. And we are
Oh,
live.
alive.
Are back.
We're alive.
Welcome, guys, to a special episode of Rankable. I'm your host, Jarrett Thomas, Senior Account Executive at iPull Rank. We got two special co-hosts today. As you know, in the middle is our office manager and our person that does everything for us, keeps the ship going. Neferkara Aaron, what's going on, Queen?
Hi, guys. Happy Friday. Happy Black Music Month.
Happy Friday. And then to the left of Neferkara, we got our managing director, CEO, founder of iPull Rank, Mike King. What's going on, brother?
What up? What up? Chilling. How everybody out there doing? I'm saying words born.
Too early.
We got a fun episode here, guys. We got a fun episode. We're going to talk about Black Music Month, right? For those who don't know, we're going to go through a quick explanation of what that is, why it's important. And for those who are artists like ourselves, how can you monetize your content? What are the platforms you should be putting your content onto? And just give you some quick tips through our experience and share some funny stories and good stories. And hopefully you learn from it. All right, guys? But Neferkara, take us away.
So Black Music Month is really to recognize the impact of African Americans, not only for making music, like American music, but also on a global scale. A lot of the things that we do kind of just spans all over the place. And it was established by a producer, Kenny Gamble. He's actually from Philly. Look at that. Media strategist, Dana Williams, and radio DJ, Ed Wright. So the first celebration occurred on June 7th, 1979. And it was officially recognized about a couple of decades later in 2000 by the U.S. government. And it's really just to recognize since inception how we celebrate Black music, recognize that Black music is American music. It's not just like the popular genres of music. It's country music. It's bluegrass. It's house music. Yeah. So if you want to learn more about, just Black Music Month, they actually have the Museum of African American Music in Nashville. And I actually didn't know much about Black Music Month because that's not something that's taught in school. So a lot of what I've learned is just from doing research and just really preparing for even like this show and like the assets that we have coming up. So yeah. Fun times.
Well, the thing is, for me, I actually did learn in high school that rock and roll was Black music. I was so surprised, because growing up, of it as like white music, right? And so
and Elvis
yeah, exactly. But like the roots of all of that comes from Black music. And I remember there's a song Mos Def put out. It's called "Rock and Roll," literally. And he's like, how the hook goes? He's like, Elvis Presley ain't rock and roll, he ain't got no soul, like that whole thing. And it kind of just like reinforced that. So I ended up learning more about how pretty much all genres came from Black music earlier in life. And it's really cool to see that, we now have a month like this that the whole country is now, I don't know if the whole country is celebrating, but at least it's recognized. So that's cool just to see the impact of Black people in music be actually recognized.
Yeah, it's like an official declaration from like the U.S. government, which I think is pretty cool. And I've attended junior high school, and those were like what they call like magnet or talent based schools. And that is not something that was taught, which I think is just interesting.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. It's really, we have a ways to go, but we are here to inform you and really give you guys some quick tips and pointers on if you are an artist or if you know of any artists, like the things that you can do in order to kind of really establish your digital hygiene, as Chantel likes to call it. Do you have any quick tips for people, Mike? As far as like what kind of platforms they should be using, what are the things that they should already have established?
Yeah, the thing is that's so interesting about social media right now is like it's actually not hard to be famous. It's really just like you committing to doing content on a regular basis. And I saw Jarrett mention this recently where he was like, yeah, I was just posting like whatever on LinkedIn. It doesn't matter what I post. I just got to post. And it's the same thing about, being an artist, right? Like you got to figure out what aligns with what your brand is, what you want to do, what like goes with your personality that you can do on a regular basis. So at the end of the day, it's really about content strategy, and the channels really depend on like who you're trying to reach. Like obviously younger audiences, Instagram all day, right? And you know, and it's not and TikTok, right? And it's far less about your actual music. It's far more about your personality, right? It's far more about like what little video can you post, or what you know, little image about your day that you can post. But what is actually in direct alignment with your actual music is this idea of building in public that really resonates with people. Like you showing them you in the studio, you showing them you writing, you showing them like, hey, here's a song where I only have a hook for. What do you think? Because people feel involved with the song, and then they have a story that they can tell about like, oh yeah, I saw when that person was working on that, and they have more of a relationship with the music. So one of the big things that the internet has kind of ruined with music is that relationship with music, because record drops, you listen to it once, you give it that 8-second test, and then you move on to the next one because there's just so much stuff. But the more you can create that relationship between you and your fans, the more they're going to actually listen to your stuff and be more engaged with you as an artist. So my big tip here is just like content strategy that kind of keeps you top of mind and showcases your personality.
Yeah, I think. What'd you say?
I was just agreeing. I'm like, you hit the nail on the head with that.
And I think even just behind the scenes and like seeing you guys work in general, I know that establishing a website like outside, like having your own outside of Instagram and Twitter and all those other platforms is essential, because what if something, you know what, I'm not even gonna say, what if somebody hacks into Instagram? What if something happens to your content? You need somewhere where people can refer to. And there have been many times that Instagram has been down, Twitter has been down, and people don't have another avenue to contact you.
I agree.
Really look at your information.
I agree. I think that's like social media in general. You're building on borrowed land, right? It's better to use those channels to drive people back to a channel that you own, so that you can contact them whenever you want. Like building your mailing list is really important, because these channels are always going to look to monetize your audience. These channels are always going to look to, you know, turn down the organic reach and make you pay for it. So the better you can get at like capturing these people long term, the stronger your ability is to actually, you know, sell things to them, get your content to them, get your music out to them. So yeah, I agree with you. And I always say that, like, don't build everything on borrowed land, drive all those people back to your own properties.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you talk about like just optimizing your information on a mobile standpoint and how important that is?
Yeah, I think realistically, most of music is consumed on a mobile device. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure there's a stat that we can pull out of any number of sites that says the same thing. But when you think about it, if someone's on Spotify, on Tidal, on, you know, Apple Music, they're not necessarily sitting in front of their computer when that happens. And so a lot of that music discovery also happens at a mobile device, whether it's on these social channels or through search or what have you. So you got to make sure that your user experience works for that mobile device. And so, you know, make sure your website is responsive. Ideally, your site will be designed mobile first. And, you know, if you're using anything like, I don't recommend like a Squarespace or something, but at the same time, it is easy for you to get started with. Pick a theme. I think all the Squarespace themes are going to be, you know, mobile responsive at this point. But if you're using something like WordPress, make sure you're getting a theme that is, you know, mobile responsive and present your content in such a way where users can actually see it effectively. So I agree. That's certainly a huge thing that you need to account for. Yeah. But also one more thing with your content. You know, a lot of people make the mistake of like, okay, I have a video and it's, you know, the rectangle. I'm just going to post the rectangle everywhere. That's not what works in every channel. So you've got to have like the square version for Instagram and whatever, so that it's more effective for that channel.
I agree with you. I think the discovery needs to happen way before they even get to the listening platform. Kind of back to the content strategy you were saying, right? And nowadays, people just want to feel connected to you, right? So like you said, I think that's the biggest mistake I've made in my music career is not filming everything. And I'm mad about today, right? Like that's what I would recommend to any artist right now. Film when you're going to the studio. Film when you're going down the steps, going to the studio. Film when you're talking to the producer. All of this is content, right? They want to feel inclusive, right? You have to feel a journey. You want to feel the experience, right? And that's the only way to differentiate yourself as a musician, right? And then they're going to love the music. Look at people or influencers like Jake Paul. This dude fought Floyd Mayweather. You know what I'm saying? Fought Floyd Mayweather. It wasn't because he was a fighter. It wasn't because of any of that. He had 23 million followers, and he had an audience that would migrate with him anywhere. He could afford he could afford anything. He's going to be able to monetize that audience. So I tell my brothers, I tell everybody, work on your audience, build outside of that. Because the hardest part as an artist, right, is you get to Spotify. There's a million artists. How you going to find Neferkara, Jarrett, and Mike?
Word. No, that's real. That's real. And yeah, I mean, like I said, you know, it's really about creating that connection with people, right? And like you said, building that audience. Because even if you're talking about, you know, like the standard marketing stuff that we're doing for our clients, or let's say you're launching a book or whatever, the first thing we say is like, okay, start the mailing list, or get your followers up or whatever, so that you can then have an audience that you can put things in front of. But the thing is that, you know, content marketing takes time. And so it's very difficult as an artist to be like, okay, I'm gonna keep doing these things when you don't see the likes go up and whatever. So you just kind of give up. You got to really commit to whatever that strategy is, at least 18 months to start seeing like considerable results. And then the other thing is that, you know, as artists, we don't think of what we do as products. We think of what we do as like expressions of what we do. And so, you know, you make a video, you make a song, you put it out, and you're like, all right, I'm not going to keep putting this out over and over. But the reality is you need to. Because even if you put it in front of your followers once, like maybe 4% of those people saw it, you know what I mean? And so you got to keep plugging that same video and using it as a product until you've maximized it. And even then, put it back into the cycle, right? Like you got to really take that Gary Vee approach, where it's like, you're seeing something from me every hour. And then you're going to see some of the old stuff too, because you probably never saw it. So it's this continual drip of content forever. And everything is a new asset that's going into it. So it's like, let's say you did a mixtape. It would be a mistake to just be like, I dropped the mixtape, and then don't really post anything else until you drop the next mixtape. Like each of those songs needs to be a post. Then you got to have like, you know, a lyric video. Then you got to have a video where you're explaining bars. Then you got to have, you know, a video where you're talking to the producer about how you made the song. Like the song can be chopped up into content in so many ways, and each of those can be an entry point where somebody discovered you for the first time, and so then they can go back and look at everything else in the past and see all the stuff that's coming in the future. So you can't look at, you know, oh, I'm saturating my audience, or I'm showing them the same thing over and over and over. Every opportunity or everything you post is an opportunity for someone to have discovered you the first time.
Totally.
I think even, you know, kind of speaking to the point that you made about consistent content, it's been super hard for me. But what I've done is kind of tapped into my resources, right? And what my resources are my friends, right? So I'll tell them like, hey, I need to do this. And they're like, all right, bet, I got you. And even some of my friends were like, listen, you don't have to do everything yourself. Like, we are here. Just tell us what to do. And I've had like a live performance like earlier this year, and I just told my friend, she's a fashion designer. Her name is Simone Minor. Shout out Simone. I told her like, hey, can you like approve these outfits? Just come to the venue. Just make sure that I look good and that things are in place. And it was such a relief, because I didn't have to worry about anything but directing the band and saying like, hey, these are the things that I want. Or like, she was just kind of an extra set of eyes, because the reality of it is that you want to perform well, but then you're thinking about all these other things. I got to pick this up. I got to pay this person. Like, tap into your resources, tap into your friends. And if your friends aren't willing to be that extra leg for you and like really support you, then get somebody else.
Yeah. And I agree with you. It's definitely, sorry, Jared, you want to say something?
No, I was saying you both had great points. Like Neferkara about the need for a team, right? You can't do it ourselves, right? At the end of the day, you need somebody to help you with know your strengths and weaknesses, help you with the promotion. But if you're consistent enough, your friends are going to pick up onto it anyway, right? People just want to be associated with something hot or something that's believe in you. then it's game over. They're just going to snowball their friends and then their friends, and from there, it's just going to go down from there. And it was another point that Mike made, but I kind of forgot that I had some heat for it. But
no, I think the friends thing is really important because I made the mistake when rap was the primary thing that I did, where I was like, I'm just gonna reach fans, but that's not necessarily how it works. The way it works is like you reach your friends are like, yo, listen to this, and then it kind of grows that way. Yeah. So for me, I was a dude who every rapper in Philly was mad at because I was like, yo, I'm better than y'all. Like I don't need to do this. I'm better than y'all. And so I didn't really have like the home base of support. I just had like a bunch of, random fans all across the country and in Europe and all that. So there was never like the critical mass and base that just like supported everything that I was trying to do. So I think you both brought up a great point of like, really nurturing the relationships that you have with your friends, because your friends do create that base. And then it's like, hey, I do a show in Brooklyn and, it's like, all right, 100 of my friends who bring 2 of their friends each. And now you got a show that's 300 people just off the base that you built. So I think that part is really important about, how you build the critical mass of people.
Well, were you releasing your music on digital first? Because like, it's funny that you said that, because I'm completely different. Like I had a following in the Bronx, but nowhere outside of that, right? In the Bronx, I go any neighborhood, any project, anywhere. There's like, yo, I know Kinky, I know Maz, I know whatever, I know the music. Because we were selling right out of trunk, Ludacris style. We sold 5,000 mixtapes right out of trunk, made $20,000, and we thought we didn't know nothing about business. Brought drip, did stupid stuff.
Not the drip.
It was nasty, big keys and stuff.
I mean, it was a little different then, because digital was like a side effect of things, like it was more about selling the vinyl, more about selling the CDs when I was doing it heavy. And then digital started to like creep in, but like if you were just digital, you weren't seen as like a real rapper. What I mean? Like using the internet to promote your stuff was considered like bad.
And lazy, like, kind of, even, right?
Yeah, and it was like, in fact, somebody tried to play me in a physical magazine, like, oh, Mike King of internet fame, like trying to play me on that and whatever, because, if you didn't have wax, you weren't considered a real rapper. And it was like a gatekeeper thing where it's like, oh, you can't afford $3,000 on wax, so you're not real yet. So I ended up getting like bootlegged a lot, and that was how a lot of people heard me, because I was just like, yeah, I got my records and CDs, you got to order from me. And that was also dumb, you know what I mean? Because like, again, I was straddling both sides. Like I use the internet for so many things, but I still want to sell my records. Really what I should have been doing, just being like, yo, download it, it's free, whatever. That would have been a lot better to, make the brand awareness a lot better, right? Like it was really, you had to see me in person or order from my website to get the records. And then we got distribution at one point, but distribution doesn't mean anything because the label or the distributor doesn't promote your record. They just make it available. And if someone wants to order it, then they put it in the store. Like I was signed to the indie subsidiary of Sony through like a label that had distribution through Red, which is Sony's indie distributor. And my record was in Best Buy, and I was hyped. But you know what? No one knew. So it's like, I sold 15,000 copies, but those were 15,000 people that probably already knew me. They weren't like, shopping for a TV and being like, yo, let me pick up this CD. Like, that's not what happened. So again, the marketing aspect of it is so important, because if you don't stand out, like no one's gonna know. You know what I mean? Like you if you do a song now and it doesn't have a video, it's like the song didn't happen. And if you don't promote that video effectively, so it's on the blogs and people are actually seeing it and the views are up and whatever, it didn't happen. You know what I mean? Like you made something, you spent money on it and no one saw it. So what's the point? So you, as an artist, you have to figure out how you're going to promote things, whether that's like, working with a PR company, and those are very difficult because you're basically, outsourcing relationships to people and hoping they actually have the relationships they say they have.
And expensive.
Exactly. And, you can spend $10K a month on that and get 3 placements on blogs and waste your whole money, or get like a small blurb in like a physical magazine that no one reads. So it's really better for you to do the organic approach of building those relationships, reaching out to people. Same way we do it for our company, same way we do it for sales, like connecting with people who are influencers, who can push those buttons for you, and building those relationships. And when you drop something, it does actually reach that critical mass and more people see it.
Let me ask you guys a question. Why are blogs important? Because I just asked myself, I was like, people still read blogs? Like, why do you guys think blogs are important?
I think it's less important now in music, to be honest with you. I think it is. It's just like, it's sort of a gatekeeper that you're into that, but blogs aren't important for yourself. No. At the end of the day, I think all the other stuff, the social stuff, the, doing the random blurbs, the journey stuff, like all that's more important than somebody reading a blog, especially if you're creating it yourself about yourself. That's kind of whack.
Oh, do people do that?
People do that for their websites.
Oh, wow. Oh,
yeah.
well,
Right? Like if it's Neferkara.com, you're going to have like your Neferkara is the illest, and you know what I mean?
It's Rankable.com.
So I agree that you can do all that without the blogs, but the blogs also will supercharge it, right? Like if I put out a video and it's on Complex, like I'm gonna get a few million views overnight. You can't deny that, right? Like, but at the same time, you could also get 1 million views overnight if you build enough of an audience. So it's been democratized to some degree, where the power is more in both the artists and audience's hands. But the major outlets still also have power. It's like saying like, yeah, I could do a TV show on YouTube, or I could do it on ABC. It's still valuable to do it on ABC.
Right. Okay. And give me your top 3 genres of music. Mm-hmm.
Hip-hop.
That's my top 5.
For me, it's hip hop, of course, followed by like soul, R&B, and then I actually like electronic music a bit.
What about you, Jarrett?
My top 3 rappers of all time.
No, genre of
all time. I love R&B more than anything. To be honest with you, I find myself listening to Motown and all that type of stuff during the day. Like, I'm that type of guy. I love soul.
Yeah.
I mean, like I've been just listening to Snow Allegra for like 2 years.
Very simple.
Yeah.
What about
Mine
you?
Is country music. So I grew up on like a lot of like gospel country music.
Really?
Listen, if you listen to those country songs, they're scandalous, okay? You want a good story? They're very scandalous. So definitely country, R&B. And I would say I want to say calypso, because calypso is like the foundation of like dance hall and all that other stuff. And they have some very good stories too. So if you want like a good little time and a good backdrop to cleaning and just like chilling, especially during the summer, I would definitely recommend listening to some calypso music.
Respect.
But yeah.
All right, we promised stories. What's a good story that we can tell about music?
Did we promise stories?
We did.
I don't really have. I always say that I've had like the best of luck when it comes to music, because I've met some really great people. And then if I felt like somebody was kind of like sketchy, I would just not talk to them. And it would just kind of be like, oh, all right, well, I'll see you later. That kind of just would be it. So I don't really have like a story off the top of my head. What is it, like the craziest thing that's happened to you as a musician?
Is that the question?
No, I'm asking, like, maybe we can talk about that. Jarrett's over here selling his records out his trunk.
As you should.
In the Bronx.
I remember DJ Premier. He came through to my mixtape release party. I remember him saying, just hearing from him, he pulled me to the side. He was like, yo, I did a song called Thank God. I was talking about my kids and the family and all that. He pulled me aside, said that was one of the realest songs he's ever heard in his life. And we was talking like my first digital marketing job was right next to D&D Studios. So on my lunch break, I would go right next door, and Slaughterhouse would be recording, stuff like that, and I have to come back and make cold calls. It was like kind of weird. It was kind of weird. That was a
I got
crazy
Primo story. So I did a show in Greece, and it was opening for Primo, and you know, he was at sound check or whatever, and he heard us, and he was like, "Yo, y'all are nice" or whatever. It was me and my guy Dose, and like he came over and like quoted one of the bars. We were like, "Oh, you're listening like for real, right?" And then so we did our set, and then he goes after us, of course, because he's premier, and he's about to drop Annie Up. And you know how he do, because he's like DJing, but he's like, you know, barking on the mic too. And I jump on stage and he's like, "Yo, Icon, they don't know what's about to go down." I'm like, "I do." And then I stage dive in the middle, like when he drops the beat. And, you know, I just kept stage diving during this set for like a half hour. He was just like rocking with me. Then afterwards, you know, because it's like, this guy's a legend, right? So I'm like, I walk over to him. I'm like, "Yo, can we just get a couple words, like a testimonial or whatever?" So I got this video of him just talking about how dope we were. So, and, you know, after that, it's like you just on cloud nine, because you're like, "Yo, this is one of the best producers in the world." You know, so many legendary records that we grew up listening to, giving you love, and you're like, "Yo, I'm about to make it. Like I'm about to do next level things." So that was just like a real dope moment for me.
I actually do have a story. Funny enough, so I just performed for a memorial that was COVID related, maybe like 2-3 weeks ago, and there were a lot of like politicians there. So like Hakeem Jeffries was there, Letitia James, Senator Prasad, and there was like a break in the programming, and I didn't, you know, people were listening, and that's fine, but I think I went to go just talk to a bunch of people in the crowd, and Letitia James was like, "Can I have your autograph?" And I was like, "Going to me?" She was like, "Yeah." She was like, "I love your set. The song was amazing." And I was like, "You talking to me?" And my mom was actually there, and my mom does not fan out for everyone. She's like, "Oh my God, can I have a picture?" So that was like the highlight of my year, because like, of course, I love the work that Letitia James does, and I thought that was like pretty cool. I was like, "Can I have a picture?" She was like, "Oh my God, of course." I was like, "All right, well, we're doing something right here." So it was great.
That's dope.
I do want to shout out everybody in the comments too. Chantel's hilarious. I'm gonna break us down. David, Ed, Gary, thanks for setting this up. Thank you all for attending. And this is just goes to show, man, you can use your platform. You can talk about everything. Yes, we are an SEO agency, but we are a lot of facets to us, right? It's a lot of things about it that make us unique. A lot of things that make us, you know, fun and exciting. You don't have to be the same old strategy, the same old things. And this is what we're trying to do, you know, for everybody. Hopefully this was helpful for you guys. We got plenty more stories, but, you know, we have to call this one a break. But love you.
And definitely look out for our assets too, that we're going to be dropping some information on some community-based organizations that are really invested into helping independent artists and just musical artists in general. So
yeah, get your content.
Get your content right. Once again, thanks to everybody for coming on. I don't know who the LinkedIn user, but thanks again, guys. Appreciate everybody for joining. We'll see you guys next week. Much love and enjoy the weekend.
Thanks. Have a good weekend, guys.